And when I got out of prison and I hopped on social media, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the things, right? Pinterest, right? But not a single person hit me up and asked me where I was. All these people that I kicked it with, that I put on for, that I took out, that I spent all the money for, that I put my life in danger for, that I put my happiness over, not a single person hit me up and I was like, yeah, I just want to be somebody that somebody misses. And so I had to transform myself. And it happened until about 6 months into my sobriety journey because I had to get over a whole bunch of stuff, that deep work, that healing, that part of sobriety that we all go through in the very beginning. But the strength to keep going was that desire to just be a good person.
Welcome to Amy Liz Harrison's podcast, Eternally Amy, a mum of eight's journey from jail to joy. A Gen Xer who overcame her struggle with alcohol to become a best-selling author and mental health advocate. She shares stories of hope and offers ideas for others struggling with mental health challenges, spirituality, ADHD, or maybe just family, travel, and logistics. One thing is for sure, you'll leave with something to chew on. And now, here's your host, Amy Liz Harrison, with your mystery meat sandwich.
Well, hi, everybody. Greetings, compadres. Today on Eternally Amy, I have a guest. And I'll tell you what, in looking through all my research and notes for my guest today, I was so excited. I first met him through the Sober Curator. We're both members of aforementioned group. And so I was just excited to have the opportunity to get to know him. And so Jay Chase is a professional speaker, podcaster, and consultant and leadership expert. He helps emerging leadership or people in leadership achieve their goals, maintain their successes, and grow their business from the inside out so that they can live a full and effective life. I mean, that's amazing. Who doesn't want that? And Jay, I'm so thrilled to have you here today. Thank you so much for coming on. And I was just wondering, could you start out by telling us a little bit about, or a lot about, your background, however much or as little as you would like?
Absolutely. Super blessed to be here and having this conversation. Just a little bit about my background. I'm based in Columbia, Missouri, right? I've been here for 24 years, originally from Texas. I'm 29 years old. I got into the speaking industry probably about a year ago and just found my way home. Before that, I was in car sales for 9.5 years, is really where my story started, right? Where my story started. So in 2017, I woke up in a jail cell. I didn't know what happened the night before. It was Super Bowl Sunday, and I look around, I got blood on my shirt, and I'm like, here we are again, Jay. We're in jail. I pressed a little buzzer because, like I said, this isn't my first time here. I know what comes next. I pressed a little buzzer on the wall and I said, what's my bond? They said, no bond. I said, no bond. What? Well, hold on. I had a million thoughts start racing through my head, right? Of what did I do? What happened? Did I kill somebody? There goes the rest of my life. All of these things because of drinking the night before. And I wasn't even supposed to. And I pressed the buzzer again. I said, "What are the charges?" And he said, "Probation violation." And at that moment, I felt like a weight was lifted off of my shoulder, right? And because one, I knew what I did, already pled guilty to it. I can face 11 years and still have some of my life back, right? I was cool with 11 years, right? Just because it wasn't all of my life, I was already good. And now I'm like, all right, cool, just 11. Luckily, it turned into a 6 month shock program where I went to prison and stayed for 6 months, got out on probation, drug court, very intense program. And I was able to get off that early, 2.5 years early, just by doing the right thing, leading myself correctly, really actually wanting to do the work and wanting to be better. And that started my self leadership journey. And as I hone in on myself, other people notice. And of course, that carries over into work. When I was in the car business, my sales are doing better, my relationships are doing better, my finances are doing better, everything was, my mindset was better. And as I continued to climb, we just grew out of the car business and more into helping people. And so now I help people and emerging leaders and leaders in business with their self leadership journey on how to develop the leader within them.
Well, I mean, who can't benefit from that? Because, one thing that I have found is that everybody has an area of their lives, right? Where they are a leader. So whether that's in the workplace or in the home or in whatever hobbies, and we all have that potential and ability and opportunity, to be a leader, even if it's just, in a very small kind of area of our lives, pocket or corner of our lives where it doesn't seem like it is a possibility, but it's more of a mentality. Am I right? Like,
No.
I don't know if that's something that you subscribe to, but I just feel like we have the chance to be able to be a leader in so many different, areas of our lives if we look at it that way.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful you say that because most people attach the meaning of leadership to CEO, suit, uh, baby boomer, older generation, somebody who doesn't know how to lead, to that meaning of leadership. And that's not it. Where leadership, all it comes down to is influence. It's influence. And one, we influence somebody, whether we know it or not. Like we may not know who's watching us, but we also know who we want to help. So we influence people every day, all day, all around us, and that's all that leadership is the ability to influence others, right? And one help them.
Absolutely. So first of all, I have to say, I just want to comment really quick on the jail thing. Tell you what, that buzzer, yeah, I've been there. So, when you were in there and you woke up and you didn't know what happened, was that kind, people use the term rock bottom. I use that term too. But was that sort of a turning point for you? Was that a watershed moment where you realized, okay, I have a chance here to, go one of two ways? How
Yeah,
did you find the strength?
yeah, and I call them pivotal moments.
Yeah.
Pivotal moments, right? And I think we have many pivotal moments in our lives. And if anybody is like, I haven't hit my rock bottom yet, anybody listening to this, your rock bottom is when you decide to stop digging, right?
Mm,
And at that moment, I wasn't ready to stop digging. I was just ready to get to like just I was like, I dropped a little bit lower in my hole. Let me get back to where I was. Right. And then, but it took that course of development and it was forced sobriety for the first 6 months, for the first 2.5 years. It was forced sobriety. But it took all of that 6 months for that to sit in for me to actually want it. And when that switch happened, it was right when I got to the prison camp. And the first thing they did was they give you a number that is now your identity and they spray you down to disinfect you before you go into prison, right? And that's when I was like, yo, ain't nobody else put you here, Jay, except for you and your actions. How you're leading yourself, the things that you're doing, the decisions you're making, the people you're putting on, the validation that you're searching for got you right here because you're putting other people in front of you. You're trying to lead other people before you even lead yourself. And that is probably where the strength came from, was a real honest moment of having everything taken from me and saying I need to pivot.
that's so fascinating too, what you said, that they have to spray you down to disinfect
Yeah.
you before coming in.
Yeah.
Like that's powerful in a few ways. Like I know how toxic I was when I first got out of jail, was going back to rehab, and that whole period of time where it was just like everything I said and I mean, you could just hear the just, sickness coming out of me all the time. And so I think that's a powerful thing that you shared. about getting to jail and having to get ready to sort of be amongst others is like having to, hose you down, get rid of some of that stuff that wasn't serving you well, and
Yeah, I like to say that I broke every societal belief that I had while I was in prison, right? And now people are like, Jay, you're so untraditional. I was like, because it really don't matter, man. It really doesn't matter when we think about everything when we think about everything that we have in our life. I got removed from society, not in a I'm resentful or spiteful way, but no, if you do a crime, you do the time. They remove you from society because you obviously can't follow the rules, right? You can't get along with others, and they put you in a place where other people who don't get along with others tend to be, right? And they take your name, your freedom, your rights. You have all of these things, and I was like, yo, I didn't have anything. I didn't have anything. And when I got out of prison, and I hopped on social media, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the things, right? Pinterest, right? But not a single person hit me up and asked me where I was.
wow.
All these people that I kicked it with, that I put on for, that I took out, that I spent all the money for, that I put my life in danger for, that I put my happiness over, not a single person hit me up. And I was like, yeah, I just
Hmm.
want to be somebody that somebody misses. And so I had to transform myself. And it happened until about 6 months into my sobriety journey because I had to get over a whole bunch of stuff, that deep work, that healing, that part of sobriety that we all go through in the very beginning. But the strength to keep going was that desire to just be a good person. When I got out of prison, that's all I said. I'm like, cool. I'm done trying to do this all the way that I have been. I just want to be a good person. I just want to be somebody that somebody misses.
That is so lovely. And, I think you brought me right back to when I first got sober and I didn't think that A, I could do it, or B, I was worth it, because I had just caused so much wreckage in my life. And so it sort of like was at the start for the courts. I was just doing it for the courts and for my legal issues. And then for my husband, I was doing it for everybody else kind of thing. And realized that that's what I had tried to do the first time around was get sober for other people.
Yeah.
And like that whole concept of, okay, well, what do I want here? And for you to say, I want to be a better person,
Mhm.
it's like that whole, you know, that derives from somewhere, from some inner desire, some inner, light or spark. And I remember feeling like I just didn't have that. And so it was is interesting as time went on, and I went back to rehab the second time. I just had to believe that eventually, like, I would find that spark if I just kept, walking forward. And I did, but it was just so challenging because I just had that, shattered viewpoint of myself and that I wasn't worth it. But once I saw that other people believed I could do it, it was like that was enough to kind of give me just a little bit of fuel, whereas like, okay, well, if they think that I can, maybe I can. And I mean, what a difference that made, and then I began to believe it for myself and make choices that, really fell in line with that, with how I wanted to show up in the world. I think it's tough sometimes, when you don't believe in yourself, but then when you do, it makes such a difference.
I give a talk about distinguishing if you have ownership of the life that you're living, right? Is it your life or is it somebody else's life that they own for you? And my first question that I always ask the audience is, are you willing to bet on yourself? Right? Because that's what I had to do. Like if
Yeah.
you took everything else away, are you willing to bet on yourself? Why? Because you may succeed if nobody believes in you, but you will never succeed if you don't believe in you, right? And so I asked my clients, I asked some people that I said when we first. So I work with a lot of companies and CEOs about aligning values and their behaviors to make sure that they're improving company culture. And in line with their vision when they started their company, right? And as employee engagement falls, that's when I come in and we do some self-awareness, some employee engagement, team building, cooperative things like that, and leadership activities.
Well, I mean, what you said is a great segue into what I wanted to ask you about next, which is your work that you do.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned this to you, but before we hit record, but I was blown away by your website. I was very moved, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is real life. I mean, this is what people need. This is what I need. I'll speak for
Wow.
myself, is you had, especially, I was looking at the Amplify workshop. And when I started reading about that, I was like, oh, I was like a bobblehead. I was like Napoleon Dynamite in that scene where he goes and he gets like the VHS tape from the thrift store. And it's like, do you want to learn how to dance? And he's like, yes. Like everything that you listed on there, I was like, yes, I need that. So, like for accountability, are you struggling with accountability, falling victim to your own manufactured limitations? I was like, yes. Lacking the ability to delegate and let go of control of certain things. Yes. I mean, everything that you had on there. And then moving down to complacency, having a hard time embracing the need for change. Yes. Dealing with procrastination when addressing personal growth or changes in routine. Yes. Overanalyzing, thinking everything or overthinking everything and struggling to make decisions. Yes. And then being overly defensive when criticized. Ooh, that hit me right in the heart because I am the worst with that. So, yes. I mean, like, I'm here to tell you, I struggle with all of those elements.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
can you give us some thoughts and kind of share with us a little bit about some of those, pillars and how you came about those? And
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. That means the website's doing its job. You guys go check it out. VJChase.com. But that came about through the work that I do with the DISC assessment. So the DISC assessment's a behavioral analysis tool that was created in 1928 by a guy named William Marston. He was obsessed with the emotions of normal people. He wrote a book called The Emotions of Normal People. And he also created the world's first lie detector test, and he also created the character Wonder Woman, right? And what's Wonder Woman's like special superpower, right? The lasso of truth. And so this guy's obsessed with the true emotions of people, and so he created the DISC assessment in 1928. The cool thing about this assessment is that people still use it today. Is that so Fortune 500 companies use it for their hiring process and all of this. Well, I actually ended up taking this assessment early in my recovery. And it was like a light bulb, light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. And it became my main tool of personal growth. And where no other recovery agency, no court system, nothing has ever given. This is something I found online. I was just trying to be a better person, be a good person, Jay, right? And I stumbled across it, and like, how are you leading yourself? And I took the assessment, and it revealed a lot of my limitations to me, but it also revealed a lot of my strengths. And as I dove into it, I got to develop who I was in my leadership journey. And now I'm actually a certified DISC facilitator and in partnership with the most modern DISC assessment out there now with the creator of it. And that's what I created, DISC Influence Recovery, because we don't have it. And so that's what I teach now. And it's aligning behaviors with strengths, with values to eliminate self-manufactured limitations. So many times people are like, oh, I can't do this because of my weakness, or I'm not strong there, or I'm not strong there. Well, think about Superman. Nothing on this planet can hurt Superman, right? The only thing that can hurt Superman or weaken Superman is something from his own planet, kryptonite, right? And I always say, so our strengths are our greatest asset, right? They're the things that make us superhuman. They're the things that make us who we are. They're the things that make us energetically us, right? But when our strengths are overextended, that's when we self-manufacture our limitations. So everything that you probably resonated with on that page comes from something that you're really good at. And it just when you get overextended or stressed out or burnt out, that's when it shows up and you're like, I need to stop that.
That's fascinating. I love that idea of the whole, your strength is actually your greatest weakness. I love that so much. And do you teach like then a certain method, or how do you get people to start turning those things around that are
Yeah,
kind of weighing them down?
it's such a good question. So values are nothing but our habits and our behaviors. Think about the Gandhi quote, right? Keep your thoughts positive because your thoughts become your words become your actions become your behaviors become your habits become your values, values become your morals, right? So if our values are our behaviors, that means our behaviors are our values on display.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a pattern becomes problematic, add a principle. So, hi, my name is Jay. I'm an extremely extroverted person, extremely energetic, extremely optimistic, extremely inspiring, but I can come off very intimidating to somebody who's slower paced, and more task oriented. And as fast as I can talk my way into the room, I can talk my way out of the room. I got to know when my strength becomes my weakness. So when a pattern becomes problematic, that's when I add a principle. So, hey, Jay, is this the right time to speak? That's all I got to ask myself when I walk into a room that I haven't been in, because I'm always going to speak. I'm always going to talk. My number one value is connection because I put people first. So I'm always looking for a connection. So I got to ask myself, is this the right time to speak? Or can we wait till later? And that's my principle that I've added for that problematic pattern.
I love that. And so, do you do that for basically everything that you would struggle with? Is you try to find that angle to find the power within it and turn it around?
Well, it comes down to self-assessing. So I believe in two timelines: 90 days and 10 years. Every 90 days, I'm doing something to push myself who I want to be in 10 years. That's it. That's how I live my life.
Mm.
So every 90 days, I self-assess, and I have the seven equities of self-leadership. It's mind, body, soul, intimate relationships, networking relationships, business, and finances. I self-assess where I am, and I look at my behaviors of what I'm doing that's helping me reach those goals. And if a behavior is coming up that I'm doing, and I ask myself, is this helping me or hindering me? And if it's hindering me and I keep doing it, then I add a principle to implement for the next 90 days to see if it works or not. So I've come up with many principles of my life throughout that process. I'm an extremely fast-paced person. Everything's urgent for me. Everything's urgent. You can't tell me something's not urgent. But my principle that I've noticed that I often find myself repeating. I often find myself going back and doing things, missing details. So a principle I came up with that was fast isn't fast if you have to do it twice.
Oh my gosh, that's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Fast isn't fast if you have to do it twice. Okay, that blew my mind. I love it.
That's what we're here for.
I love that. And so have you just over time, you've just kind of trained yourself that that's how you handle these things when you're sort of see a behavior or something that's not kind of aligning with your greater system of choices that you want to make for your life and your goals. And then you just kind of like, okay, so like, what is this here, that needs to flip or whatever?
It's look at your wins and count your opportunities for growth,
Mm.
right? And there's no losses, there's only learning. So as much as we convict ourselves to learn from who we are, from everything that happens in our life, the best piece of advice I've ever gotten in my life was 99.9% of what happens in our life is self-induced. We can't control the weather. And when I got that piece of advice, I was deep into my addiction. I just came out of prison. I was blaming everybody around me for everything. And I was like, you right.
Mm-hmm.
because it's me that I'm angry at the world. I'm angry. I'm letting all these emotions inside me bubble up and boil out and spill over. And so when I started adjusting and taking ownership of who I am and self-assessing and looking at those seven equities of self-leadership to what I do have control over, my whole life's just gonna get better. And I gotta and I had to get really honest with myself and say, just because I say I value something doesn't mean I value it. Just because I say I value family, just because I say I value it, doesn't mean do my behaviors support that value, is what I ask myself now.
I love that so much. And on these topics from the Amplify workshop, what about criticism? Or not, I don't think you used the word criticism. You used a different word. People are overly defensive when criticized.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do I know a lot of people struggle with this besides me. So how do we start working on that?
Yeah. First and foremost, see who the criticism's coming from. Is that a person of importance to the subject matter? Right? Do you value their opinion? And if you do value their opinion, why? Is it because they're in a place of success in that area? Or you got to put a fact to a fact, right? So if somebody says, "Hey, I think you're ugly, Jay," I'm like, I got 15 people who tell me I'm good looking. I got to put a fact to a fact. So that's something that somebody else is walking around with thinking that they believe. And so they're going to criticize you for it. And so if we just get defensive, we're not using emotional intelligence of our self-awareness and self-regulation, right? So a lot of people think emotional intelligence is just self-awareness. And what emotional intelligence actually is self-awareness to self-regulation to social awareness to social regulation. So, how to read yourself and then how to act yourself, how to read the room and then how to act according to the room. And that's emotional intelligence because we're taking in perspective of everybody else around us who does trigger our emotions as well. Right. And so it comes down to just looking at what you value and then saying what behaviors support that.
And so, what can we do when we walk into a room basically and kind of assess these situations? What do we do when we are triggered? What do you do? What is your kind of practice?
Man, you ever read the book The Four Agreements?
Yes.
That was the third
Love
book
it.
I read. That was the third book I read when I got out of prison, and that is the four principles of my life that I live by. Um, so I truly believe if we're just impeccable with our words, we don't take anything personally, we don't make assumptions, right? And we always do our best in the situation. There ain't nothing negative that we can say. There's nothing bad that we can say. There's not anything that anybody else can say about us, right? So what I ask myself is, what am I making about me? If I feel like that, if I'm triggered, if somebody else is, what about this am I making about me? Is that something they're dealing with? Is that something they've seen in their life? What? Because if I know this not to be true about me, why am I making this about me? It's not about me.
It's almost like I was watching an old Ted Lasso rerun the other night, and he was saying, find out before you freak out, because he was presupposing something. And it was like he was all, just like totally going crazy about it. And then he was challenged by his, friend or colleague with like, well, do you know that that's true? Do you know that that's happening? And he had to admit to himself, like, no, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking that that's what's going on. And that was one of my biggest lessons in recovery that I always need to be reminded of too, is like, wait a minute, is this true? Or am I just creating this?
Yeah, what Katie Byron has a great framework on that. Um, it's called The Work. I think it might be a book too, but it's called The Work. You ask yourself four questions. Um, how do I feel about this? Do I know this to be true? How would I feel if it was true? How would I feel if it wasn't true? Is it true?
I mean, that kind of summarizes that. That's pretty good. I mean, yeah.
Uh,
Fantastic.
100. That my therapist gave me that. Helped me. I was like, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And what about how do you make decisions based on, this whole concept of overanalyzing things? I know that's a huge thing today, right? The paralyzation of analyzation and,
Yeah.
just getting stuck. Like, I can't make a decision because there's this and this and this, and, I don't know which one. And
There's a multitude of ways that people get stuck in overanalyzing, right? When we're looking at maybe a big old task list of like what to do next, right? It's probably the most common out there. Overanalyzing on what tasks to do, right? Um, Important and urgent always comes first.
mm,
Not important and then urgent. So not important and urgent comes second, and then not important, not urgent is eliminated, and urgent but important is kept.
mm. So, yeah, so learning to determine what those things are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Now, if it's like making overanalyzing about making a decision, right? Of like, should I buy this window cleaner or should I buy this window cleaner? And
Hmm.
overanalyzing that and saying, well, this one's better and this one has more reviews, right? You can get so deep in that. A good principle to implement there is if you don't move, you lose. If you
Mm.
don't make a decision, your windows don't get clean,
Hmm.
right? So it's almost coming back down to reality. Over analyzing will kind of float us up and we'll get lost in the clouds. And then it's like, what's my principle to ground me? What's my guardrails? If I don't move, I lose. I
Hmm.
lose time, I lose effort, I lose energy. If I don't move, I lose. So we're gonna go with this one. If it doesn't work, we'll go with the next one next time.
Gosh, I love that because I'm thinking about how many trips I haven't taken because I've gotten stuck in well, should we stay here or should we stay here? Should we do this or should we do that? Which of my kids should we take? Should we take the older ones? Should we take the younger ones? And then it like never happens sometimes. So it's really true. I mean, at some point, it's like, I have to have like a come to Jesus meeting with myself and just go, just freaking plan it. Like, just plan it. And it is what it is.
100%.
Yeah.
And one thing about people who like me with my personality style, so the disc assessment is based all off your unique personality style as well, based in 4 characteristics that are shown in every human. But one thing about me is that I don't suffer from overanalyzing because I'm a very decisive person and I'm very people oriented. So if the decision involves people, I'm making it right away. If it involves implementing or following a system, I'm like, hold up, I ain't got nothing to do with that because that's a
Mm,
limitation of mine. But there's people who are strong in following a system and developing a system and rules and procedures that do overanalyze when something doesn't make sense.
mm,
So if it doesn't make it make it make sense because some people need logic to move forward. I need opportunity. I need people to move forward. Some people need a task to move forward. Some people need a slower pace. Some people need a faster pace. And that's why it comes to self leadership and that self awareness piece that I get from the DISC assessment because it really shows you one, what you need, what energizes you. And then the best part is what drains you, who you turn into when you're in environments that you're not comfortable with or with people that you're not comfortable with or when you're being watched by others.
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's powerful right there because, I think so many of us tend to run from those situations, and it is actually an opportunity. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example from my own life anyway, is I used to hate public speaking, hate it with a passion. And then, shocker of all shockers, I joined a 12-step fellowship when getting sober, and I'm public speaking all the time, right? Because I'm always talking in front of others. And then pretty soon, like I turn around and my whole life is more opportunities outside of the 12-step fellowship to use public speaking and to public speak. And I never realized how um, it's really, I felt chained to the fact that I couldn't public speak before because it was sort of like this, huge thing. Anytime I ever had to introduce somebody or whatever, it's like, oh my God, my knees are shaking. And to not have that be a problem anymore is like a big deal. But I had to learn how to do it via practicing. Like that's how I got there. So being in situations, that sort of make me uncomfortable or people that I'm uncomfortable around, that whole thing has really, it's changed for me. It's gotten a lot different. And, it's kind of rare that I find a situation that I'm very uncomfortable in now. And usually I'm just not spiritually fit for that day, is what it is. Like, I'm just kind of like not, I'm just in a funk for whatever reason or not the best version of myself that day. But usually I just try and walk through the fear of it. And it always turns out just fine. Maybe I said something dumb or like that I thought was dumb, or maybe it was felt awkward to me, but whatever. Like,
Yeah.
got through it.
And something like one of my best friends, man, one of my best friends, people are like, "Oh, Jay, you're made for public speaking." No, yeah, it's my gift. It's naturally what I'm good at. I have natural talent for it, right? But this business is cutthroat. I was like, well, it ain't something that I'm made for. But I'm not saying that you can't public speak because you weren't blessed with this extroverted personality. You just got to know you and then know how to practice you and then know how to use you and then know how to actually leverage your strengths to do what you need to do to get your message across because your story has the power to change someone's life. And there's a frequency that your voice comes across at that mine doesn't, that will fall on ears that mine won't. So I think everybody should speak. And that fear comes from not knowing their style of speaking. Every
Oh,
time we can, yeah, we in the window instead of in the mirror, 90% of our life.
I love it because, a lot of times we suffer from imposter syndrome, right? And we'll just like put ourselves up next to somebody else and compare. And even without realizing it sometimes. And
Mhm.
just to realize like, no, that's not gonna work. We have to find our own voice and, walk on our own path. And how did you learn to do that for yourself?
It has always been a superpower of mine to speak. I've always been in sales since I was high school and all of that. When it comes to when it came to like getting on a stage, I didn't try to be anybody else. I
Mm-hmm.
never tried to be anybody else. Like how I talk, how I deliver a talk, and all that is going to be very different because of my personality style and who I am, my superpowers. I told you earlier, my number one value is connection.
Mm-hmm.
So when I get on the stage, I don't care what I say. I just want to connect with the audience because it's not about me. That's my number one value in any situation that I walk to is connection. My number two value is growth. So I
Mm-hmm.
got to teach the audience something. I got to teach the audience something. And then integrity. Always be yourself, Jay, no matter what. I know myself so I can be myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so it really comes from a place of studying your style of who you are. Like me, I'm naturally energetic, naturally optimistic. Now, if I was a slower pace, more task oriented person, I wouldn't be this optimistic and energetic. But if I tried to be this optimistic and energetic, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it will drain you more than it would just being you.
Mm. I love it. I mean, I feel like, that's just, it's such an empowering concept to know yourself. And that comes from some of that, self awareness that you were talking about earlier. I have not studied this DISC assessment at all, but it sounds fascinating. I mean,
I,
I'm
I,
kind of blown away.
I'll
Yeah.
give you a crash course. Don't you worry about it. I love it. It has shown me so much, and it measures conditioned behavior. And so there's only times that the DISC assessment will change throughout your life because it's based on conditioned behavior, right? And so the only time that it will change is when we change jobs, like literally, like our behaviors have to change, right? Or if we go through chronic pain because the way we view ourselves is different, right?
Mhm.
Because we're not the same. So this thing probably is one all of it's based off the four classical temperaments from Greek from the Greek ages, and almost every personality assessment is like developed off of the disc, and it's a great tool for self awareness. But in order to change any conditioned behavior, takes self awareness and practice. So that's where implementing that principle comes from: self awareness, and then action, and then acceleration, and then automation. And then that's when you create change.
This is like firing me up, man. I'm loving it. Thank you so, so much for all of this. And,
Absolutely.
I was going to also ask you because you have a podcast, right?
Yes, I do. Yes,
Don't
I
Touch My Mindset. What a
do.
great name. I love it. What do you primarily do on your podcast? Do you talk about, more ways to self improve and self discover?
Yeah, it is designed to uplift, inspire, but most importantly, just give you tools, tips, and tricks on how to live a full and effective life. It's focused on personal growth, connectedness, and inspiration through anecdotal experiences, research studies, and just through my work. And then I have a segment on there called Pivotal Moments, where we talk to people all over the world about their pivotal moment in life to get them where they are. Um, we break it up in different seasons. Like season one was all about me and my principles and how I live and things like that to introduce people to me. And then we've grown so much. Season four was all about personal growth. Season five's coming out, or depending on when this is out. And it's all about self leadership and leadership.
Fantastic and phenomenal. I can't even like tell you how exciting that is because when people are in their right zone and you're clearly in your right zone for you, um, you can just feel it, you know? You've got such a genuine, just charismatic personality for this type of work. And it's super exciting to see. And I love seeing people who are gifted and they're just on fire. They're just, rising and just continuing to just, expand and touch people everywhere. And so, as we wrap up, I just want to thank you so much for coming on and for, sharing those gifts and discoveries with us today. It's just such an honor. And I'm wondering, as we're kind of wrapping up a little bit, I would love to hear like, do you have like one kind of main message that you like to leave people with, or a thought maybe that you didn't share yet that you want to be sure you say?
There is no good or bad, no right or wrong. It's just uniquely who you are.
I love it so much. And Jay, like, where can people find you? Do you do other than speaking engagements, which sound fantastic? And he has one coming up, you guys. So, do you also do like private coaching?
Yeah, private coaching is very selective
Okay.
when it comes to one-on-one. We do have a few group programs out there that my team and I build together. What I do is speak, coach, train, and that it's full force ahead. So I'm always developing coaching stuff. If people are struggling with changing their relationship with alcohol, I'm an
Mm.
independent contractor for Reframe. So you guys shout out Reframe, right? You guys can download the Reframe app. I host a couple meetings on there, and I coach a few people on there. But um, you're going to get the best me from the workshops and the speaking events. Like I said, there's no good or bad, but no right or wrong, but just uniquely you. And I'm just uniquely my best in a room full of people. When it comes to like when it comes to like growth, learning, leadership, being able to work with me is in a room full of people. Like come sit down and let's do this as a community and
Mm.
get better. Because I truly believe that like if 9 times out of 10 we can do it for ourselves. We just can't do it for ourselves for long. And
Mm-hmm.
so who would benefit if you became the best version of you? And that's why I always want people to get around people. Because somebody's going to benefit from you being the best version of you.
Well, that's a showstopper right there because, you know, that's exactly, it falls right in line with what you said, you know, is kind of your main goal, which is connection.
Yeah.
And so, right, if other people are able to get to that best version of themselves, that is going to make them, you know, it's going to give them the ability to connect so much more authentically, right? And I love that. I love nothing more than like, okay, how can I, you know, let go of this stuff? You know, it's like that whole saying, let go or be dragged, right?
Yeah.
How can I let go of this crap to make room for this new stuff that is actually really going to not only benefit my life, benefit others
Yeah.
and spread. Yeah.
That's so good. And as we leave, guys, I promise you, I'm done talking. As we leave, the law of sacrifice. If you haven't tried that, if you haven't gotten a room, if you haven't been around people who want to be the best version of themselves, what we're saying is that that's the best way to build connection to expedite your growth is to change yourself and change your environment. Right? The law of sacrifice says in order to get something you've never gotten, you have to do something you've never done.
Mm.
Right? And a lot of people are like, well, yeah, can I work with you one on one? Can I do coaching? How has that helped you in the past? Have you
Mm.
taken what you've gotten and you've kept it for yourself? Have you taken what you've gotten and said, I'm getting better? How about you? Or have you taken what you've gotten and helped somebody else get better as well?
Jay Chase, I am moved by this whole conversation. And as I say goodbye, listeners, I have to say you need to check out Jay Chase's website. Um, it blew my mind. Sign up for the Amplify workshop. And don't forget that fast isn't fast if you have to do it twice. Words to live by.
Yeah.
And so on that note, Jay, thanks so much for coming on the show. And everybody remember to be kind, rewind. Thank you for the honor of your time. Take what you like and leave the rest behind.
Thank you so much for listening to Eternally Amy. Amy Liz Harrison is a best-selling author, speaker, 12-step coach, meditation teacher, and recovery advocate. To find out more, please visit amylizharrison.com. Keep up with Amy on all platforms by following @AmyLizHarrison. Please subscribe and review this podcast. It means so much to us if you do.